All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to another edition of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. I'm your host, Brandon Troy. As you saw in the promo post for today, for the second show that we have today, I have two of the co-directors of the film, The Runners. So give me a moment. Let me bring them on one at a time. First off, we have Micah Lyons. Let me bring him on. How you doing, sir?
Hey, what's up, Brandon? It's good to be here, man. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. And let me also bring Joey Loomis. What's up?
Hello, everyone. Good to see you.
Absolutely. So first off, guys, thanks for coming on the show, talking about the film. I had a chance to see it, enjoyed it. So just first and foremost, can you talk a bit about the inspiration for this film? I know, Micah, if you want to, speak on that.
Sure, yeah, I'll dive in. So, the inspiration that Joey and I had for this film is to make a film that is not only action-packed and entertaining and a lot of fun just to watch, but also something with a deeper message. My company is called Breath of Life Productions, but Joey and I both we have this sort of mantra of like we want to leave the world a better place than we found it, and we want to breathe life into this planet through the art that we create. We just also both happen to love crashing and blowing stuff up. So we feel like we can do that in a model that is really, really entertaining. So obviously this movie is about human trafficking and specifically set in Texas, in the U.S., in a small town, because trafficking happens all over the world, and a lot of people think it's like a third world country issue, and it's really bad and it's terrible, but it's that's other people's problem. But Joey and I are here to say that this is happening right here in your neighborhood, in your town, no matter where you live in the U.S. And so we're bringing light to that issue.
That's right. We've seen a lot of there's a lot of movies out there that show trafficking around the world, and everybody knows about the red light district. A lot of stuff that kind of gets swept under the rug about what trafficking is, and a lot of that support comes from the United States. Unfortunately, the stats change just about daily. During the 200,000 people at any given time in the United States were being trafficked, and that's it's a horrific number, and it shouldn't happen to anybody. So we wanted to bring a little bit of light of what that looks like in the United States.
Gotcha. And to speak on that further, just the idea with casting, because I was looking at the credits and saw, not only did you co-direct it, but you also had a hand in the casting as well, which I find fascinating also. So can you talk to that and that process for getting, each of these roles filled?
Yeah, Joey and I did pretty much every single piece of this movie together. I jokingly say we co-everything. I think the only thing I did by myself was write the script, but even then Joey was, giving notes and informing me, and it was still going back and forth, and like it's sort of the same with Joey doing like a lot of post-production stuff. It's he did that, but I informed and gave notes and things like that. But it was very collaborative, and all the way down to the casting, and we just rolled up our sleeves. We're like, you know what, we're going to make a movie. We're going to make it happen. No matter what, we're going to keep walking one step in front of the other until it happens. And so we attacked casting when the time came, and we were really blessed. We went through literally thousands of auditions to cast the role of Zoe, which was my little sister, played by Nettie Leach, who is phenomenal in the movie. And so on and so forth. I mean, you can go from the top all the way down to the 500 local extras that we had filling a football stadium. And I don't know if you noticed, but we filmed in a dilapidated toilet factory towards the end of the film, and it's literally we're walking through a factory full of toilets, and and it's 100 and 50 degrees outside, and we've got people suited up in long sleeve and pants and mask and everything running around. I mean, literally by the dozens who were there just to support the cause and be a part of a movie. So we couldn't have done it without the community, but I couldn't have done it without each other either. It was very collaborative.
Gotcha. And to comment further,
the process of casting is one that you wouldn't expect. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. the process of casting is not the process that you might expect. An actor goes into a room and they assume it's only coming from the actor's point of view. So they think, if I shed a tear and know my lines and all that kind of stuff, that's what's going to get me the role. But what's really interesting about casting is that you don't think about is, number one, there's a here. And so if the story is being told that, a really skinny guy, you need to fill those roles, right? If they have a long beard or if they have a shaven head, you need to fill those roles. So a lot of it is look. A lot of it is filling out wardrobe that you already have set up. A lot of it is making sure that your, couple different leads don't look too much like each other. Really big part of it is just the fact that you have to work with these people every day. And so somebody, they might come in late and have a bad attitude and not take directions, but they did a great job acting. And it's like, well, honestly, acting is fantastic. We need that. That's a box that needs to get checked. But we want people that can take direction. We want people that can show up on time. We want people that are nice to work with. And I will say that everybody in this film, from the best of the best to the really bad guys, were fantastic people, wonderful to work with, and had the movie filming, which would have been terrible. But at the same time, the people would have made it okay. So we really ended up with great people.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? One other thing I'll throw out there that, I've never mentioned this in any other interview, but, Joey and I used a lot of kids in this movie. We had a lot of people that were, anywhere from 20 down to like 6 or 7 or 8. And we had incredible parents that came and brought their kids every day and kept them hydrated and kept them motivated, and it's tough when it's hot and there's, you're a kid and you've never been in a movie and there's 100 guys running around with prop guns and it's kind of scary. And that's another big part of it too, that I learned in this process is like, when you work with a child, it's like, you hope the child is great, but you're really looking over their shoulder at the parents going like, can I work with these parents? And so that's kind of a lesson to a lot of parents who want to work and want their kids to work in film is like, really, the producers are really looking at you. And so we were blessed to have really awesome parents. But yeah, it's something that Joey just kind of like made me think of for the first time.
Definitely. And I was going to say another thing that comes to mind in thinking about runners is the choreography, because like there's so much that happens throughout the film in terms of the action sequences that are happening, and a lot of things to keep in mind, whether it's with what you have with weapons, whether it's physical choreography. So can you talk a bit about how intensive that was, because there was a lot of it within this film?
Yeah, go ahead, Joey.
Yeah. So I did most of the like fist fighting choreography. And that really comes down to we wanted to be believable. We wanted things to be action packed and feel. I mean, the entire movie from beginning to end was really a balance. We wanted to show the reality of trafficking, and there's a lot of stuff in there that you can watch the movie a few times and you might not catch because we tried to work it in there naturally. But there's a lot of truth in the movie through the writing, and so when it came to fight scenes and that to watch the movie, but at the same time, we didn't want to detract from the movie and make it silly or realistic. So we were really trying to find that balance. So when it came to fight choreography, it was really a matter of, okay, what's our environment? What's the skill sets? Like we'd love to have people doing double backflips and stuff like that, as long as we could find a realistic reason for it. But if they can't do a double backflip, what can they do? And so Micah has a background in football. He's tough as nails. And so you can put him through a lot of stuff and he will do it. And you can see some of that. You can see some tackles and stuff that Mike is doing in the movie. I have a background in kickboxing, so you saw me doing a lot of kickboxing moves. But it wasn't just the fight choreography, it was also safety on set. When you have hundreds of extras with prop weapons, there's certain protocols that you have to follow. You have to, number one, make sure that nobody went to their truck and grabbed a real weapon. You have to make sure that everything, that everybody's fingers are off the triggers. You have to make sure that nobody's aiming at each other. There's a lot of stuff that goes into keeping a room full of people in a fight scene, whether it's rifles or whether it's kickboxing or whether it's car wrecks or whatever it is. There's so much that goes into it for safety. And then the rest is a balance. How much fun can we have, but not lose sight of the story, because we really wanted to tell a good story. What do you think, Micah?
Yeah, man, I would totally agree. And again, you know, we use so many local people in this movie. We flew in a lot of actors from LA and Nashville and New York and different places, but we filled in around those principal characters with so many people who were local, who were playing these, you know, sort of ancillary characters, and they were in on a lot of the action and had never even been in a movie before, much less had training in some of these areas. So literally breaking down some fight scenes, because, you know, Joey and I have both done a lot of fighting in film before. And so we're just, it's kind of, you get to a certain point and it's sort of second nature, and you kind of, you know how to throw a punch on camera, and you know how to take a punch on camera, and you land it 9 times out of 10. And if you don't, you're like, you're mad at yourself, because normally you do. But then you have to, you know, when you're giving that sort of information to someone brand new, they're learning it in the moment, and then you're like, action, you know, and you're like, okay, I hope they don't kill each other, you know. And so it was definitely, it was interesting, and it was tough, and everybody stayed safe, and everybody had fun, and I hope, you know, when you watch it, that you're like, dang, man, the action in this thing is really fun. Like, these fights are cool. So
yeah, and when it comes to something
I guess the only reason why I brought that up is I'm thinking back on, I guess, not to spoil anything, but the ambush. I'll just leave it at that. Where, yeah, that scene in particular, and considering all the different logistics of making that sequence work. So
yeah, it was a lot.
yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. It was almost, at times it was almost silly, because, you know, we have such big scenes with so many people with so many guns that at times we had to cut it down so it didn't seem almost ridiculous. We really wanted to tell an exciting story, and so you know, we pushed as far as we could push, and then we had to start bringing things back to make sure that it still kept that air of realism. And everything you see in the movie, again, these are the things you wouldn't know unless you were there behind the scenes. But for every time that we dealt with drugs, we brought real police officers in to confirm that our drugs looked proper. Every time we did SWAT movements of the SWAT, you know, teams moving through buildings and stuff like that, we had real SWAT coming in and showing our actors how to move. And sometimes we actually had in the SWAT teams moving with the actors. Everything was as realistic as we could make it, because we wanted the action to be exciting, but we really wanted it to be real.
Awesome. So with that in mind, in lieu of the subject matter that you have with runners, you know, as you said, you wanted to, you know, provide a film that has something to say and comments on an issue that we have in our society. Can you talk a bit, just briefly, on, like, I guess, how intensive it was in looking at the possible, you know, research into human trafficking, and if so, like, if you physically, you know, had a chance to, like, look at it firsthand, and maybe you didn't. It was more so, you know, just doing the research piece.
Yeah, you know, as I sat down to write the script, you know, it was important that we get it right, because we had actually written an entire script first, that we got through the script. And I remember one day, I don't remember the exact place, but it was some, like, we were like at a Chinese restaurant in North Hollywood or Sherman Oaks or something. And I'm sitting there across from Joey, and I'm super nervous, because here we are, we got a full script, we're ready to go, right? And I'm like, I think we should rewrite the whole script. And he's like, what? You know, that's just something writers say. Like, you're just like, you know, you're just nervous, you know? And I started to explain, I said, I don't think that we're capturing the severity and the sort of the heaviness of of what's happening. I think we need to go back and really like do more justice to what's going on in less entertainment, more on the justice side, which long story sort of kind of full circle, I think it actually became much more entertaining and action packed than the first script. So that actually worked out great. But Joey, when we started having that talk, he kind of came around really quickly. He's like, you know what, I think you're right. So we did a page 1 rewrite of the entire script, same characters, a whole new direction. And when that started, Joey and I both, we dove in. I talked to nonprofits across the country, but especially in Texas, a lot in Dallas and Houston, because we were filming in Texas, and the movie is very specifically set in Texas. We say this movie is like Taken, set in the world of Friday Night Lights, and so we wanted to be very specific to that. So I did tons and tons and tons of YouTube watching and Googling and calling nonprofits and picking their brains and talking to people who, I met a wonderful lady named Chung Kim, and Chung lives in Dallas now, but she lived through the horrors of human trafficking herself and was pulled out of that world, and she's been on Oprah and she's been all over the place and told her story, and she's doing all kinds of things with that now and really helping raise a lot of awareness. And I had a few times where she and I were able to talk a lot about the movie. And we were even blessed to have her come out to the set of the movie and play one of the women who was trafficked in the movie. And I was like, I wanted to offer her that opportunity, but I was scared to ask her to do that because you can imagine how sensitive that is. And she came out and she was like, this is so real. This is so incredible what you guys are doing. And she was really passionate about it. And so that gave Joey and I a lot of confidence. But we did mountains of research. I remember one time Joey was like looking at Google images of different types of trafficking, because it's very much about human trafficking, about sex trafficking. But we also wanted to sort of represent some other types to remind people that there are other types of trafficking that happen every day around us. And so we wanted to just sort of subtly touch on those. And I remember walking in and Joey's trying to do research, but you can imagine like the images that you come across with this kind of stuff is absolutely, like, I couldn't even look. I was like, Joey, I literally cannot see this right now. Like, I can't even look at it. It was that bad. I mean, it's the most atrocious things you could ever imagine laying eyes on. And so, I don't know if you guys have heard this, but like literally just today, I started hearing this huge thing in the press about like Wayfair and these other companies. Have you guys seen this viral thing going right now about how they've been selling, and not Wayfair themselves, but like they've been using Wayfair, where they're selling these tall cabinets that are like 6 feet tall, and they're giving them a serial number that if you check the number, it's a name of a girl, and then on the back end, and they're shipping people in these things. And this just blew up. It's like all over social media as of today. It's like, that is why we made this movie, like, yes, it's fun. Yes, we had a blast. Yes, you will be entertained if you watch it. You'll love the fight scenes, you'll love all that stuff. But it's like the greater value is that, some little girl who is walking down the wrong road today is going to watch this movie and see the main girl walking down the wrong road and go, you know what? I see where that led her. I don't want to go that way. I think I'm going to go the other way. And if we do that and we're saving lives that way and raising awareness that way, I mean, it doesn't matter how much money the movie makes. Joey and I are beyond happy and blessed.
Yeah, and it's funny because we've been doing a couple of these interviews, and so one of the past interviews, one of the last couple that we did, we had explained what human trafficking looks like, and we kind of went into like a step-by-step order of like, first this person does this, then this, and this, and then they find themselves trapped. And after the last interview, the interviewer sent us a link, and it was a story about a girl who had been trafficked, and it was the exact story, because it looks like in a movie, a girl's walking down the street and she gets like knocked over the head and put in like a sack or something, and then she's like flown off somewhere to be trafficked. And that's not how it happens. There's a process that goes into this. There's a process that goes into a young girl speaking to somebody on the internet that she doesn't know and sending pictures she shouldn't send, and then that man now has leverage over her because he has these pictures that nobody is supposed to see, and so now he could say, send me more pictures, otherwise I'll post these, and then it gets worse and worse, and they find themselves years later having been trafficked for years, and it's this horrible situation. And we really wanted to make that truth, which is one of the main rewrites that we did, was we took the girl from an innocent girl who is just on her way back, from doing something nice, and we set her instead to be a rebellious girl going to parties she shouldn't go to. It was a major rewrite in the script that we wanted to do to show the reality of it. However, because we want people to see that reality and we didn't want it to be an R-rated movie, we held back on a lot of the more graphic sides of human trafficking, which is what Micah was talking about before. Because human trafficking, it ultimately comes down to a hard issue. People don't care about others. They don't see the value of life. And so you start to tie that in. Excuse me, that's the dryer. You start to tie that in with it ties in with things like ISIS. It ties in with the cartels in Mexico. It ties in with a lot of really other bad things. And when you start to go down that rabbit hole, it gets very gruesome very fast. So we tried to find a good balance of how far can we go to show this without focusing on stuff that is going to be so morbid and disgusting that it's going to make our movie so highly rated, as in like R rating or something, or an NC-17 or something, so that the young girls we're trying to get the message to can't see it. So that was a really difficult balance to try to find, to make sure that it was applicable and real, but also something that people could view that needed to view it. It was a difficult balance.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. So with this film, obviously, you guys have been, discussing, the extensive process in bringing runners to life. I'm sure that there are plenty of other films that you guys have in the wings that are being developed. Are you able to comment on those? I'm just fascinated with everything that's going on. What those might look like in terms of perhaps changing plans for it, or just like you were talking about, further adapting the script for this film. Perhaps those may are going through additional drafts just because of perhaps limitations that you might foresee in a production.
Yeah, I mean, I'll shoot first. So I had a movie that was supposed to go into production in June, and we had a few name actors attached. It was a crime thriller, and budget raised, everything good to go. COVID hit, right? And so now that movie is hopefully going to happen in November. So but we don't know. So we're sitting on the financing for it, and we've talked to our name actors. They're still good to go. Everything's fine. It's just trying to navigate the tricky waters of, because getting insurance with COVID is really tough, like production insurance and things like that. So one of the things that I did, by the way, Brandon, I'm actually kind of announcing this first on your show. No one knows this yet.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, there you go, man. So one of the things that I did is we took our equipment and we took a really small cast and crew, and we went out and we shot a thriller called COVID-19 Invasion. It's literally the first time I've ever said those words out loud publicly. But yeah, so we shot this movie called COVID-19 Invasion, and it's now in post-production. The entire cast and crew combined was 7 people, and we shot in a broken down, dilapidated high school, and it's right in line with what's going on in the world, but it's also very much a human story, because basically the main character is going into the school to save his homeless sister, because a group of people think that this virus that is now completely out of control and now dangerous and killing everyone, it's like an ultra deadly strand of COVID-19. They think that the homeless people are responsible for spreading the virus. So they're going building by building and killing the homeless. And so the whole point of the movie is that we all have value. It doesn't matter, black, white, Asian, homeless, rich, poor, across the board, everyone has value. We're all worth fighting for, and everyone is, deserves a right to life. And so, so that's what that movie is about. But again, like The Runners, it's wrapped in a really fun sort of action-packed kind of shell. But yeah, I mean, we're both kind of keeping the ball in the air and doing whatever we can because it's kind of a crazy time.
Yeah, and for me, it's funny because you think of a production, it never really it does end. There's an ending to it, and there is a beginning, but it's much longer than you'd expect.
Yeah.
Because you're talking to people about the production that's going to happen for years ahead of time. You're working things out with writers, you're getting deals and stuff. So, I mean, a couple of days ago, I was talking with a producer. He's an Emmy-nominated producer and director, and he was pitching things to me that I might want to work on, different sci-fi things. And we were going the gamut. There's been some animation stuff that I've been working on, some fantasy animation stuff. Even Mike and I have been, kicking back and forth the fun ideas for the future. So it's really interesting that the production process, it just goes on forever. And you could talk to somebody and then 2 years go back and be like, hey, you remember that thing we were talking about? Let's make that happen. If you go back to like watching The Lord of the Rings and the making of that, and the amount of time they spent before they started a single moment of pre-production was years. And it's just a really interesting thing. So there's a lot of stuff in the works. And there's been a lot of, just like you've been asking about the fight scenes, the martial arts and all that kind of stuff. A lot of interviews have been asking about that, which really pushes the side of, wanting to do more, action fight movies and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff in the works. But it's a long process.
Yeah. Joey and I joke often and say, if someone would have told us how long the process was with the runners, we're like, we might rethink it. Of course, we would never. But yeah, he's right, man. It's amazing how long a process can be. And on Tuesday, July 14th, the runners comes out, and there will be, hopefully millions of people who go, oh, look, a brand new movie. And to us, it's like it's been around for a while, but
yeah.
that's what it's all about, though,
Yeah.
Absolutely, it is. So, gentlemen, guys, thank you so much for coming on and talking runners. I really do appreciate it. Micah, Joe, can you tell folks where they can find you, man?
Yeah, well, you can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is right there by my name. It's at BOLP Films. That just stands for Breath of Life Productions. Also, you can find me Facebook.com/Micah the Producer. But most of all, we want you to find Facebook.com/The Runners Movie. That's most important. Go to Facebook.com/The Runners Movie. We have links where you can pre-buy the digital copy or a DVD copy of The Runners right now, like literally this very moment. You can go buy them iTunes, Amazon, wherever the film is sold. But those are the main two places. And yeah, that's where you can find us. Joey, Where can we find you, Joey?
Yeah. Well, right now I'm in Vegas. It's 113 degrees. But if you want to find me online, you can jump on to Joey Loomis YouTube. That's the one that I check out the most often. But like Micah said, if you want to go to the Runners Movie, that's where you're going to find updates on the runners. And we're going to try to start releasing things soon. We've been getting a great response. We find ourselves in the top 10 of a lot of things lately, which is interesting because the movie hasn't even released yet. Of course, people watch it and before it releases, but we find ourselves at the top 10 of a bunch of different websites and different critic reviews, and even big things, like Amazon and stuff like that. We've been doing pretty well, so we're excited, and we think that whoever watches this movie is really going to like it. We really want you to follow the movie, and that is, like Micah said, The Runners Movie on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook.com/The Runners Movie.
All right, there you guys have it. For all you guys watching out there, I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find us on Facebook, obviously, as you are watching now. You can also find us on Instagram, Movers Shakers Unlimited, on Twitter at Move and Shake UNLTD. You can find me at Brandon Troy ENT on Twitter and Brandon Troy _ENT on Instagram. Again, thanks for watching. Be safe out there. See you soon. Bye.